Hi everyone, this is Joy with Create It with Joy. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today's card is a split card design totally inspired by Jennifer McGuire. I watched her video on split card designs and I knew I had to make one. I am using Mama Elephant's Wish Upon a Star, so let's get started. So your card base that you need is going to be 4 by 5 1/4. So trim that down because then that will fit on a different folded card base. Then you've got 2 flaps, both at 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. And then we are going to score the flaps at 3 3/4. And I have all the numbers up on the screen. These flaps are a little oversized, but you can trim it off. And I think it just made it easier to work with paper that's bigger rather than smaller. And if you made a mistake and just not having to deal with that. So again, I'm going to be scoring those at 3 3/4 because this is the flap. Now, and I'm also scoring them both flaps, although one flap is the only one that's actually going to need the scoring, but I'll show you why I did it that way. So I'm going to fold those, use my bone folder and crease that down so you have a nice crisp edge. And you'll see that that will flip over that card base and we'll trim off any excess. So now I'm using Avery Elle's Pierced Clouds die. And I am just going to kind of trim up this white cardstock, or excuse me, die cut this white cardstock with these cloud dies. I'm also going to be using vellum and a glitter cardstock. So I'm just kind of laying out, making sure I get the clouds close enough to each other so my image from the Wish Upon a Star stamp set will be able to stick to the clouds, the top and the bottom. So I'm cutting through the white cardstock first. The bottom piece and the top piece, I remember both of these flaps have a fold, even though the top part's the only one that you're going to be using the fold for, but you'll see that in just a little bit. Now I'm going to be doing the same thing for the vellum. I'm just going to line up my top piece and then I'm lining up my next cloud die so it goes just a little bit further down. So they kind of are, you know, like these clouds are just billowing together. And now I'm going to do the same thing with my glitter. Lining everything up so you'll have the top piece will have your white, then you'll have vellum, then you will have glitter. Okay, now we're going to ink up this background. And I am using Tim Holtz Distress Oxide inks in Wilted Violet, Blueprint Sketch, and Chipped Sapphire. And I really do think this makes a fantastic night sky. And for me, there's something different when you're making an outer space sky as opposed to just like a night sky. And I think these 3 colors were perfect for a night sky. So I'm just going to lay down the color all over the place, very random, nothing. I mean, you don't have to be perfect with this by any means. And then once I get some color laid down, then I will start really working the colors together. Adding more of certain colors once it gets kind of blended and soft together and you can't really see where one color starts and the other ends, and just keep working that color into the paper. And the more saturated your paper gets, the easier it is to blend. I am using Nina Classic Crest Solar White cardstock for this. Blends perfectly. So I'm just going to keep blending, adding a little bit more color. I felt like I needed a little bit more purple in there because it was kind of getting washed away. Or blended away, washed away. That was funny. Anyways, excuse me. So using that chipped sapphire, that's a nice dark color for nighttime sky rather than using like the black soot or something like that. So I'm just kind of going over everywhere and you can see now it's just getting this really nice, beautiful, yummy blend together. And I just left it in here so you could see that, you know, sometimes it takes a little while to get a good blend, but don't give up. Now that that's done, I've got these little metallic watercolors, and I've had them from forever. They're from Luminart. I'm using Snapdragon, Majestic Blue, Solar Gold, and Icicles total for this whole card. But any metallic watercolor will do. I'm just getting it wet and splashing it onto the background. And I am, or you know, off the end of your brush. And I am using gold, the Solar Gold, excuse me, sorry, Snapdragon and Majestic Blue for this background. So it's like little sparkles all over the place. It could be stars. It just could be a glittery sky, whatever, however you want it to be. So I'm just going to tap that everywhere, and you can set it aside to dry, but I didn't have patience, so I am using my heat gun because I was ready to move on. But I love how that sky looks. It's gorgeous. Okay, so now the bottom cloud for this card, oh no, I'm not doing that yet. Excuse me. I am stamping and inking the images. These are the images from Mama Elephant's Wish Upon a Star, this cute little bunny sitting in the moon staring at the star. And I am using the same watercolors that I used to flick the background on the front. So this is Icicles and Solar Gold for the moon. I wanted the moon to stand out different because I'm going to color the bunny with my Copic markers. But like I said, I wanted the moon to feel a little magical. So that is why I'm not coloring it with my Copic markers. Although you could, and no big deal. And if you don't have any metallic paints, you can use regular acrylic paint to splatter onto your background. Any of that works just fine. I love how that is so shimmery and shiny. So I'm laying down the icicles, and then I'm adding in a little bit of that solar gold to give it that little bit of yellow white kind of moon. And I like that it's very uneven, and I just think it just turned out great. So finishing adding some of that. I just spray water into my little container and stir it around, and then you've got this great little mixture of color. And if you need it thinned out, then spray some water on your work surface and dip your brush in that. But I think that is beautiful. Drying that again with my heat gun, but you could set it aside to dry. Totally up to you. Now I'm going to take this majestic blue, and I'm going to color the star, and then I'm going to add a little bit of the solar gold to that, just so it's not a solid blue. But I liked the blue because the background has, it's very, very blue in the background. So I thought that turned out good. But you could paint it any color you wanted. Even the glow in the dark, what am I trying to think of? Embossing powder would be great. So the bunny is super easy, you guys. Copic markers E31, 33, 39, and R20. We're doing R20 for the cheeks. I just wanted him to be kind of soft, nothing special about him. And the cute little guy that you will see later. I also colored the cloud with the icicles, so that has a shimmery color to it, and the wings on that cute little bunny will have the icicles as well. Oh, and I think they're little cute little cottontails. Excuse me. So I'm just blending out the colors. You have a dark, medium, light, super easy. Adding a little more of that dark. So we've got some shading, some shadows. And he is just a super cute, sweet little bunny. And I did the R20 in the ears as well, because he needed a little bit of pink in there and a little pink on the cheeks. And we're going to do the same thing for the other little bunny. Really easy coloring, really easy to blend. You could also use colored pencils, obviously would be a great choice. If you have the Zig Clean Color Real Brush Markers, you could definitely use that. So any color medium would work great here. Adding just a few more shadows, and that cute little guy's done. And I will be using the coordinating dies to cut these out. So here I'm adding the icicles to the tail and to the wings. And those little guys are done. So now I'm taking the solar gold and I'm just coloring all over a piece of paper, and I am going to use some star die cuts from the Wish Upon the Star coordinating dies, and I wanted those to be in that gold. Obviously, if you have gold paper, anything like that, or glitter paper, that would be great too. Anything would work. So I'm taking those die cuts and I'm just sticking them to a piece of low tack tape and adhering that, sticking that down onto my colored, my painted paper. Make sure it's dry, and then I ran that through the die cut a few times, die cut machine. Okay, so here I'm using Ranger's Multimedia Matte glue, and that top flap I'm gluing down my Vellum to the white cardstock that's going to be in the front on the top of the card. Then I'm adding some more. Make sure it's on the vellum, make sure it's not lower than the white cardstock so you don't see the adhesive through, if that makes sense. Really make sure that dries. Use a liquid glue or like score tape when you're using glitter cardstock, because just a regular tape runner, it doesn't want to hold it as well. So I used liquid glue, but you've got to set it aside to dry. So I'm repeating the same step for the bottom. I'm just lining it up to that folded edge, gluing everything down, and I will set that aside to let that dry. Make sure you get some good adhesion. Okay, so now this is the top piece, so you'll see how that goes down, and we will adhere that to that back panel. Again, that base is 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm using score tape for this because this is going to be the opening. You're going to flap it open, however many times you want it to stick good. So definitely, if you've got some score tape, use it. If not, use a liquid glue, but I would highly recommend score tape for this. Just using my tool-in-one to take off the release paper and then stick that in there in the fold. I'm just burnishing that down really good with my bone folder. And then now I will trim the excess off of the sides. It would be better if I had larger scissors for stuff like that. And so I really need to get me a pair. But my little scissors will work for now. So now you've got this top flap. And now I can kind of see where I want this moon to be. And I will take the next piece. That's the bottom. And I'm just using the bottom flap as a guide, because now I know I can kind of tuck it under that back panel and it'll hold it in place, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to see where my little guy is going to be, and I'm going to tuck him into some of the clouds in the bottom and glue him in. Now also I used a die cut. One of the things that Jennifer McGuire said, which makes sense for the back side of this, is this image I cut another die cut out of just white paper, because we will be gluing that to the back of this image so you don't see any of the coloring through the image, if that makes sense. It kind of finishes it off on the back side. So I'm going to glue him inside, just a little bit of glue here and there, and make sure it dries, because you don't want it to accidentally stick your card closed. That would be not fun. So now I'm seeing where this goes, lining it up good. Again, I'll be trimming off the sides of this bottom panel when I'm done. Just getting everything lined up to see exactly how, see that little fold, and that helps me to push it up there so I know exactly where it needs to go. And then my glue didn't stick because I didn't let it dry long enough. So added some glue behind that, and now I'm sticking that down. So now that's stuck, and here is that other die cut piece that's just plain white. But if you wanted to color it on the reverse side, you could definitely do that if that worked. But this just kind of finishes that inside off. And no one's going to notice that anyways. So that is really super cute. So now I'm just opening up that flap and trimming off that excess piece. And I will also, again, trim off of the sides. So these split card designs are quite easy, and Jennifer McGuire really explains it super good, so you should go check her out if you are interested in doing something like this. This was not difficult at all. Look at how cute that turned out, you guys. I love it. I love that all the white against that beautiful background. So you've got this cute, fun front, and then we will hide some images behind the background for when you open the card. It's like a little surprise. So I was just kind of messing around with some positionings, but then I realized I have got to stamp my sentiment. So it's going to say you are 1 in a million, and we are going to emboss that with gold embossing powder. So I'm going to prep that with my anti-static tool. I'm using Simon Says Stamp clear embossing ink. I just stamped it, a little bit of gold. Really make sure your heat gun is heated up. I should have done this before I adhered everything, but I kind of in my mind wasn't quite sure where I wanted the sentiment to be yet, so I didn't. But again, make sure your heat gun is nice and hot so it does not warp your paper. So I just kind of held it flat and just was able to heat that really quick and made sure my paper didn't warp. Now all those cute gold stars, I'm just tucking them in and around, some in the clouds, some on top of the clouds, and I love the way that that turned out. Even some multicolored stars would be darling here too. But I think that turned out super, super cute. I feel like it's really quite simple in the front, but still very visually appealing. So now I'm gonna work on the inside. I've got my little cloud on the inside and I stamped a sentiment that says birthday wishes on the top. And then I'm adhering that cloud. I will adhere the bunny and a couple stars. And so people can still write their sentiments, what they want to say, you know, behind these images or even on the back of this card. And at the beginning I misspoke. For some reason I thought I put this on a folded card base, which really honestly doesn't make any sense. I didn't. But then I did attach it to a regular A2 sized back panel. I couldn't tell you what I was thinking, guys. So correction, it is not on a traditional folded A2 size card base. So now I am going to be using score tape again to attach this, like I just said, to the A2 sized back panel. I really want this to stay on this card. I would hate for it to fall off. That would be horribly embarrassing to whomever you sent this to. But this score tape is fantastic. I'm using 1/8 inch score tape. They also have a 1/4 inch. I think there's a smaller and a bigger size than that for sure. But I like the 1/8 because it works for everything, you know, for a tiny spot or even a larger spot, it works good. So using my tool-in-one to take the release tape off, and I'm going to center that because you will have a little bit of frame around that, which is super cute. And make sure that's pushed down really good. How fun! I love it. Okay guys, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys stopping by and watching. I hope you really, really liked this card. And I hope you'll try this out because I'm so glad that I did. So like I said, go watch Jennifer McGuire on how she does these split card designs on her YouTube channel. It is fantastic. Thanks again, you guys, so much for stopping by. I appreciate all of your support. If you like what you've seen, please thumbs up, subscribe, and please, please, please share with your crafty friends. I really appreciate it. And I will be back here with some more cards real shortly. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys. Bye.